Well, hello and welcome to the Leverage 3 podcast. I'm Craig Shoemaker, and today's guest is Luca Restango. Luca is a busy man. He's actively bootstrapping not one, but two startups, all while maintaining his 9-to-5 job, at least for now. Luca, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Craig. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. And well, we contacted on Twitter and started talking in the DMs a little bit about, your journey. And I noticed that you have like a couple different products that you're working on. And then you tell me like you're doing all this while you're maintaining your 9-to-5 job. And I was just curious, like maybe start off by telling us, set the stage a little bit. Like what do you do for a living at the moment?
Yeah, so I have a full-time job. I was working as a software engineer in a tech company. This is what I've been doing for a long time, so for more than 10 years now. So on the side of this, I created two products actually, and I working on them and growing them on the side of my 9-to-5 job.
Awesome. And I think these projects are even at the point to where you're earning revenue from them, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So revenues are growing very slowly and steadily, but constantly. And so I'm quite happy about that. So they're generating around 2K euros per month at the moment. So I'm very happy about that.
I would be too. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to dive in, like take a step back for a second, and motivations and why people do things is a topic that comes up quite often on the show. And, you're in the tech industry. I'm in the tech industry. It pays well. It can be pretty fulfilling if you have a good manager, at least. And I'm curious, like what sort of created this need for you want to go and build something on your own?
Yeah, there are definitely a couple of reasons why I want to shift and move from employment, basically, to entrepreneurship. The main reason is that by working in a company, we are playing the so-called career game, right? So we try to do our best to be well evaluated, to contribute as much as possible in the company we are working for. And there are different paths we can follow. Mine is I started as a developer, as a software engineer. And at a certain point, I reached a level in which I was good. I had a good seniority. I had a lot of different soft skills like agile methodologies, managing people, not as a manager, but in a similar role and so on, and good technical skills. So for me now, as if I want to continue perceive the career game, is to try to level up and change role, basically. Mm-hmm. So go to the management side of the job, which is a completely different job. I tried recently to make this to step up, basically, and that didn't happen. So this is a bit frustrating because it's something that I cannot control actively. So right. I can try to apply in different companies. I can try to grow in my current company. That didn't happen. And this is one topic. The other topic, which is even more important for me, is that there are different ways to grow our earnings, basically, at different speed. So employment means that if you are lucky and we get the right opportunities, we get to a very good salary at the end of our career, and we'll get a very good pension, depending on the country we're living in.
Right.
Yeah. So, for instance, in my country, I live in Italy at the moment. The pension system is not very robust, to be honest. So I'm very scared about that. So about the future. So a way for me to be able to be more comfortable in the future, in the older ages, is to, of course, earn more money. And a career game, in my opinion, doesn't provide that opportunities or very low possibilities. While entrepreneurship is very risky, but there are higher probabilities, in my opinion, to get there.
Okay, there's so much to what you just said. And now I want to kind of unpack a couple different things. Now, the step from a software developer or software engineer into management is a complete categorical shift in the discipline, the mindset, the skills that you need, right? And you've identified that, saying like, that's not for me. I would say on the same turn that the shift from a developer to an entrepreneur is a complete categorical shift as well, right? And so I get like you're seeing a bigger future upside for you as why you're wanting to do that. Like that makes total sense. But I'm curious, what sort of growing pains have you gone through? What are the difficulties that you find in order to say, okay, well, I'm a coder, I'm a developer, and now I'm a business owner. What's that journey been like?
Yes, it's a completely different mindset. And I'm learning every day how to shift my mindset from being a coder, as you said, to a business owner. It's completely different, but it's also very exciting and challenging because you learn a lot and you need to do a lot of different things. So you're not vertically focused on coding and that's it. So some of the frustrations in working in a company is that you're very vertical. So there are other departments, and usually when you try to challenge them, you get a kind of pushback, right? Okay,
right.
You know what I mean. While working as a business owner, and especially as a solo founder, it means that you need to work on marketing, which is a completely uncertain and unclear topic for me. Marketing and content and copywriting and design and building the product, of course, so coding as well. And building an audience as well. So there are so many different things that you need to learn and put in place and be good enough at, that it's a continuous learning journey. And it's very exciting.
So if we were to pick, you listed a number of different disciplines. I'm curious, for you as an individual, which one did you find the easiest to pick up and which one do you feel like is a struggle to sort of get a grasp on?
Yeah, definitely marketing is the best for every solo founder with coding background because you don't know what you need to do. Marketing is so generic. You need to put your products in front of as much people as possible, not as much, but especially the exact target for your products, which is difficult to figure out.
Right.
So these are the main challenges for sure.
So how have you gone about trying to learn disciplines?
That's a good question. My approach always in life is to trial and errors. So I make a lot of different experiments. I'm not that kind of analytical person that studies a lot of different things, creates a plan, and then executes. I'm more instinctive, I would say, but it's the same. Even I play guitar, it's the same. So I have this attitude.
I do as well. We have to talk about that some more.
Great one, yeah.
So all right, so this is really interesting. Now, for people who are not a part of the software development community, I just want to stop and explain something for a moment. So when you build software, one of the ways that you can go about it is you can create this big plan and you can try and write down every single detail. And then you give it to developers and they go and try and create a piece of software based off of that plan. And we call it waterfall. And it has its ups and its downs, but generally as an industry, people have decided like this isn't the best way to go because the market, people, everything seems to change. There's this other way of going about things that's called a more agile approach. And that's where you sort of take things as they come and try to adapt and adjust as necessary. That's a really loose sort of definition for what agile is. But I find it interesting to see that your approach to dealing with and learning some of these other disciplines kind of mimics what I'm supposing is probably your philosophy in software development.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. So agile methodologies is something that I bring in with me during this entrepreneurial journey, but even more extreme, because while working in a company with agile methodologies, you need to deal with uncertainties, changing priorities, and so on, right? And so you try to make the smallest possible product increment and to release it as soon as possible to gather feedback. So this is the main goal of the agile methodologies. I apply exactly the same on my products. But even when I mean on an extreme level, is that, for instance, my latest product, I even avoid building it. I built a landing page, a pre-sale landing page with a lifetime deal. And that's it.
That's it.
And that was the validation, actually. Yeah.
I've been wanting to talk about pre-sales and selling before you build a lot. And because there's a part of me who feels like, I need to make sure I'm creating the most value possible before I ask anyone for their money or anything like that. But it's the prevailing wisdom, at least at this point, to sell before you build. And so let's talk about this process a little bit. So what did your landing page look like? What was the offer that you had? And so you said that the kind of the carrot that people got was they have lifetime access to your product. But what was your positioning in order to get people to want to sign up before it was built?
Yeah, so I was very clear about the features that would be included in the final version of the product. And you're right. I mean, when you do a pre-sale like this, you need to be very clear about the expectations and respect the users that purchase your lifetime deal. So I include a lifetime deal that was you will simply get access forever to the product. And for me, it was a way to validate the idea, actually.
Right.
Because I was not sure if people would have been willing to pay for such a product. And so for me, the fact that they were paying was the strongest validation possible.
I think the thing that occurs to me, though, is like you have this job, right? I imagine you probably have a loving family as well. How much time went between doing the pre-sale and delivering? And did you set a time expectation for people?
Yes, absolutely. So I delivered the product 2.5 months later, 3 months later. So it was absolutely reasonable, I guess. And you're right, you need to manage the expectations of the users and respect them. So during these 2 months, I was providing updates to them just to reassure them that things were going on. They could trust me and the building process and so on. And that happened. So,
nice. And so when you started your pre-sale, did you have a proof of concept built? Or was this really like, I just want to know if this works before I spend any time on it? And so you built a landing page and went from there?
Yes, I definitely had a proof of concept. So I knew already that I could have built that product, actually. So yeah, I think that this is mandatory because you need to be serious about what you're doing.
Okay.
And yes, I had this POC, and actually the idea and the features of the product evolved a lot before the pre-sale and especially after the pre-sale when I started getting feedback from the users.
And how did you get feedback? What were you showing them in order for them to be able to evaluate?
Oh, well, most of the feedback were coming after I released the first version, the beta version, and I gave them access. And I created a public board in which they could add feature requests and vote on the feature requests of other people or create bug reports and so on.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah, I created a small community of early adopters, basically.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, we're kind of dancing around the subject a little bit, but I'd like to explain to us what this product was and what the features are and kind of what it does.
Yeah. So this is my most recent product. It's called Inboxes, Inbox plus a S, an S. This is basically a Twitter DM CRM, light CRM, and productivity inbox that
Okay.
is specifically designed now for people that has a kind of sales pipeline in place. So they basically use conversations on Twitter to make deals. So to
Okay.
sell their services or to onboard on courses or coaching on cohorts and so on.
Nice. Nice. And so your proof of concept, was it working code? Was it like screenshots that you showed people? Like how I'm trying to get an idea, like how in depth you went on this as you went to market in the beginning.
Yes. So initially my idea was quite different. So I wanted to build a product that would include different platforms, private messaging. So I
Okay.
was thinking about Twitter DMs and Instagram DMs and Messenger, Facebook, and eventually also Reddit and blah, 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 blah. I did this POC and I discovered that there were huge technical challenges. Basically, most of these platforms doesn't have APIs. So
Okay.
if you want to do that, you really need to trick
And an
products.
API, for those who might be wondering, is basically your ability to work with the code of like a server or some service in order to integrate that into your own software.
Yes, exactly. So I shift the idea and I focus on Twitter DMs only. So the Twitter DMs experience on the website of Twitter, but even on the mobile apps, is not that great. It's missing a lot of features and functionalities. And I was struggling because I have a lot of conversations going through on my Twitter DMs, and I really struggle to find them, to find unread messages, to reply back, and so on. So my first idea was to improve this and solve this problem. So this was the value proposition of the pre-sale page, the pre-launch page. So it came up with different features like quick replies, filter and show only your unread conversations, and have additional information and tagging system. This is very, very handy. So you can tag your conversations and find them later, filter them later, add notes and so on. And recently I introduced the follow-up reminders. So if you need to remind yourself to talk to that person in a week or so, you can do that and the software will remind you on the exact date.
Wow, that's really cool. That's you describe these features and you're like, oh yeah, I would want that, or that seemed like a basic piece of functionality, but yet at the same time, for DMs, I never really thought about doing some of this stuff. So that's really cool to have those features available. So you're building this out and you're starting to get feedback. What was like a big turn or a big change that you made based off of the feedback that you got?
Yeah, so initially I was thinking about Twitter DMs client, just improved. What I discovered is that there is a huge group of people that are, as I said before, are interested in installing using Twitter DMs and using Twitter in general. So I started to focus more on this type of users, and continuously dealing with them to understand what are their needs, what they would need, and so on. So yeah, this is the big shift in the way I propose now the product. Also on the landing page, the copy is quite different now.
Okay. And so long term, so you have you have another startup as well. I remember asking in the in the DMs that I didn't know how to pronounce it. So
Yeah,
help me out here.
I pronounce it Hivoi. Is
Ivoi.
completely a fantasy name, so it doesn't have a meaning. Yeah, it's still related to Twitter DMs, but is more on the outreach, discover leads, and outreach using Twitter DMs.
Okay.
While Inboxes is more on nurturing the conversations. And future plans for Inboxes is to include other platforms, because I think that it's very valuable to apply the same approach to other platforms like Instagram and Messenger that thankfully have very good APIs that they can use and consume. So that's the plan.
Nice. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to go next was, what holds, what does the future hold for you and kind of how you're going to get there. So in knowing that your bills are mostly paid through your full-time job, what do you see as your ability to kind of grow these to, hopefully get the point where it eclipses that for you?
Yes. So I will continue with my strategy, which is basically to be very active on Twitter. I really like to engage and talk to people on Twitter, and I try to grow my audience. So this is something I will continue to do. So at the moment, Twitter is the main source of traffic for my products. The two products are Twitter related, so there's a perfect synergy. I will continue with this. What I want to try now a bit different is that I think that my current situation, there is definitely an advantage, which is all the revenues I generate using my side projects, let's say, is something I can reinvest because it is extra money I'm making, right? So I'm looking for opportunities to, I don't know, sponsor a newsletter, sponsor a podcast, whatever ways to try to attract more traffic and hopefully to grow more quickly the two products. And sooner or later, don't tell my employer, but I would like to switch to full-time in the hacking, of course.
Well, hopefully they don't subscribe to this podcast because I won't tell them. So if you were to go back in time and start these all up, all over again, are there any pitfalls you would avoid or any mistakes that you would not want to repeat?
Absolutely, yes. So I didn't mention it, but I started this journey in around 2019, and I actually built a product with one of my former colleagues, for 2 years on the side. Okay, so the big mistake was building for 2 years, of course. So we built a product. It was amazing. It was great, but we didn't validate it as much as we could have done. And second thing, we didn't have an audience, no distribution channels. So when we launched on Product Hunt, we got 70 upvotes, which was super great for us. But yeah. I mean, even not in the top 5, right? So we didn't get the badge. We were lucky, and we sold that product. So we sold it in 2021 actually, and I started a new journey, this time different. So I wanted to focus on the audience first, and then build products. Very small. Hivoy was an MVP when I launched it with just one feature. And then, as you notice, my approach changed. So the third product, Inboxes, was pre-launched. So I'm improving, I guess.
Yeah, you're definitely learning along the way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, this is just awesome. It's so cool to hear your journey about how you've, put more than one product out there, had really good success from it, and learned a lot of things along the way. And one of the things that I like to do near the end of the show is to give you a chance to give like 3 sort of tactical tips that you could share with people based off of your experience. So what are your 3 things that you'd want people to do?
Okay, so definitely 3 things absolutely to avoid. I know it's difficult for people with a coding background, but the first tip is avoid to build on the side for too long. You need to get feedback. So release a very small MVP of your idea. And the second tip is you need to get feedback from the users, from the market as soon as possible. And based on that, iterate and evolve your product. Yeah, the third tip is to focus on distribution channels as early in the process as possible. So if you know already which is the area and which your products will be around, so like, I don't know, a course around or a product around email marketing or content creation and so on, build an audience around these topics. Instead, if you don't have a clear idea, just start building an audience. So select one of these social platforms that you love to use and observe what the others are doing in terms of growing an audience, publishing content, and so on. And try to do the same very consistently, because it's a long-term game. But distribution channels, it's nowadays it's a huge asset that you have. Once you have, a newsletter with a lot of subscribers, a podcast with a lot of subscribers, or a social profile with a lot of followers.
Hey, thanks so much for being a part of the show. Let's continue this conversation. Feel free to connect with me on Twitter, where I'm at Craig Shoemaker. So go out and have an amazing day. I hope you get a chance to find someone to love, find someone to forgive, and find someone to encourage, because we are most certainly not in this alone. And I'll see you again here soon on the Leverage 3 podcast.